Hey, this is Step Amit. Welcome to my exorcism.io series. In this video, I'll be working through the crypto square exercise from the exorcism.io Ruby track. So what we're supposed to do here is take a given string, a given sentence, a piece of text here, normalize it, which in this case means stripping out any spaces or punctuation, any non-word characters, downcasing it. That's the normalization here. And then turning this string into a rectangle. We want it to be as close to a square as we can. But if it can't be a perfect square, then we want more columns than rows, but only one more, if that makes sense. So if we can split it, so here 54 in their example, it's 54 characters. That can split into 8 columns and 7 rows. And then what you do to encode this is you simply, instead of reading across the rows here, you read down the columns. And that becomes your encoded message. So this is the encoded string. And then you split it up into these chunks that are the same size as the chunks we had before, with a space in between. Okay, cool. And then so they just show here that what you could do if you were given this message is you could simply write it out in a square again and then read the original message out by reading down the column. So exactly the same thing you did to encode it. So we'll go ahead and pull this down. And I'll start a new TMX session. Okay, taking a look at the test file here, I see that we have a class called crypto that lives in a crypto square file. We're going to initialize it with a string that they call plaintext. And we're going to call an instance method called Cipher text to get our encoded message back. And that is about it. So I'll go ahead and open my testing pane and run my test, which will fail because I deleted the empty crypto square class. So let me go ahead and create that. Swap my panes, and now it'll complain because even though I have the file, I need to initialize the class crypto. Next, it is going to complain because I need an initialize method that takes a parameter to hold my plain text. Well, so in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and create an adder reader for my plain text, and then define initialize. To take that and set it to the instance variable. Next, I need to implement the ciphertext instance method. And of course, I need to return something. So to begin with, I'm just going to go ahead and return plain text. And that'll be enough to make this first test happy. And so I'll just keep going. Test lowercase will fail because I'm not normalizing the input right now. So let me go ahead and start that. I will downcase it. And then the next test, remove spaces, will fail, of course, because I have not done anything about spaces on normalizing the input. But what I'll do is I will simply gsub, and I'll give it, I'll do any white space, and I'll simply replace that with an empty string. All right, let's see what's next. Test remove punctuation. Okay, of course, that's going to fail because I haven't done anything about punctuation yet. So what I'll do is, instead of instead of this, removing spaces, building up a list of things, I think I'm just going to try to get away with substituting any non-word character with an empty string. So that's what this uppercase W, \W, in a regular expression is a non-word character. Okay, cool. And so now test 9-character plaintext results in 3 chunks of 3 characters. This will fail because we're not actually doing anything. So now we actually have to do our algorithm. We have to implement it. So let's think about what we have to do here. So we have our plain text, which once it's normalized is going to be this is fun, which when we set into rows that look like this. Once we split it up into our square or rectangle, we want to transpose those so that our encoded message looks like this, and then simply join these guys together with spaces like that. This is going to be our encoded message, and of course that's what we've got here on in our assertion over there. So I think to do this, what we need to do is, I think the easiest thing to do will be to get this into an array of characters and then slice that into equal size slices, and then transpose it, which will do exactly what we want it to do. So for instance, if this is an array of THI, and then another, our second row, cis, and then our third row, fun, like this. What transposing this array will do is it's going to start with the T here. Then it's going to grab this S, the first character here. Okay, then it's going to grab the first character here, this F, and put them together. Then what it'll do is it'll take the H, so it'll take every second character, H, I, U, and then it will take every third character, I, S, N. And that's exactly what we want to do, right? So this is transpose, which is a method on an array in Ruby. So what I want to have happen here is something like this. I want to take my chars to turn this string into an array of the characters. And then I want to use something, a method that I don't have in plain Ruby, but I'm just going to pretend right now that I have it. It's something that comes in active support with Rails, and we'll just figure out how to implement our own version here, but it's in groups of, and you give it a number. And so what that's going to do, it's going to slice up the array into those. And the reason why we're not just doing each slice, I mean, maybe we can try just starting with each slice and give it the number. So let's see, column count is, I think, what we want to call that. We're going to have to do more than that, but maybe I can just start implementing it that way. I might be able to get this first one to pass. And so if I have this here, what I can do is I can map it so that I can join each one of these groups together into a string, and then join the groups together with a space in between. So here I'm going to map and just join. And then here I'm going to join, but I want to give it an empty string to join them together. I'm not sure if this is going to work. Well, of course it won't work because I don't have column count. Undefined local, right? So let's go ahead and create a private method for column count. And if you remember, we basically want to do our best to make a square, But if we can't make a perfect square, then we want columns. We want to have more columns than rows, but only one more. And so what we're really looking for is the square root. But since in many cases that won't be a perfect square, we're going to want the ceiling, right? Because we want the whole number that is above the actual square root. If it's not already a whole number. So this is going to be plain text. Actually, hang on. Square root is a function of the math library. So math dot square root plain text dot length. And then I want to take the ceiling. Although I don't know that I need to do that yet. Invalid slice size. Oh, because in this case, it's 0. So see, I need to actually do this already. So I'm going to split this out into in groups of and start implementing that. Def in groups of, and I'm going to give this my column or number. Let's call it number. I don't know. I shouldn't care that it's columns here. And I'm simply going to, and actually, wait. The way I'm doing it here, I need to implement it on array. So it's not going to be a private method here. I need to open up array. Class ass. Class array, thank you. Okay. Def in groups of with a number. And what I want it to be is self each slice number as an array, because each slice will give me an enumeration and I want that to be an array. But again, this is going to fail for the same reason. It says invalid slice size, and I know why that is. It's because you cannot have a slice size of 0. And in our first example here, we have a slice size of 0. See, let me comment this out, and I bet it will pass oh, no, it doesn't. Oh, I'm not transposing. Okay, hang on. Let me get this. I need to transpose this. You probably noticed that I forgot that. And if we were pairing together, you would have told me, hey, you need to transpose that. You didn't transpose it. Okay, now that this second test is working, let's go ahead and solve for the case where we have a slice size of 0, a column count of 0. And what I'm going to do is simply put a guard clause here. I'm going to return self if, let's see, can I just check to see if it's empty? Yeah, so we want to return self if empty. Okay. All right, well, let's keep going. And this one is going to fail because I see that we don't have an evenly divisible string here. And so we're going to have to pad this. We're going to have to add padding. Okay, let me see that it's going to fail. What was the message? Element size differs. 2 should be 3. And so that's happening in transpose because we do not have an equal number of characters. So let me just, I need to build up a collection here. I'm going to start by just duplicating myself and returning that. I should get the same one error. Yeah, and it's the same error because I haven't solved that yet. And what I need to do is I need to pad this. I need to add something to it. I need to concatenate a new array that is padded with a certain number of spaces. So I will call this padding, and I will and so it's going to be spaces. So what is this number here? How big does this need to be? Well, what it needs to be is when I divide myself by number, I want not the remainder, so not the result of modulo, but the opposite of modulo. So let's think about this. Let's build this up. So if I were to take self, the size of me, right? Size, because I'm an array here, modulo number. That's going to give me the remainder. So in this case, that's failing. It's going to give me, so here, let's see. I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 letters. And so my size is 8. 8 modulo 3 is going to give me 2. Well, I don't want to pad 2, right? I want to subtract that. So what I want to do is subtract the remainder from number. Like that. Like that. And let's see if that's enough here for this. Whoa. Okay, that broke a bunch of stuff. Contact. Not concact, concat. Hang on, let's try this again. So I've got 4 errors. Oh, okay. So I'm padding where I shouldn't be. So let's see. I'm padding where I shouldn't be because I'm okay. So this is returning 1. So in the cases where this is even, this will be 0. Where I actually do have a string that is evenly divisible into a square. So what I need to do is I actually need to do this again. So that if what I come out here with is a 0, the number is just going to be number minus 0. And I need to do this again so that my padding will be 0 in those cases. There we go. Okay, cool. And this actually is almost exactly what this method looks like in Rails. And let's see what this last one tests. 54 characters, plain text results in 7 chunks, the last 2 with trailing spaces. I think that'll work. Yep. All right, so all of our tests are passing. So I want to refactor this. Let me get rid of these notes I made at the end. The first thing that I would do here, and I just kind of always want to do this, my initialize method has no business knowing all these details about normalization. I'm just going to name that normalize and move it to a private method here called normalize, which takes input and I might, in this case, I don't know, I might might put those on separate lines. Sometimes I like to do that. Sometimes, and actually not that one. Let's just leave it there. It's a little, sometimes it's a little more readable if you put those chaining exercises on separate lines next to each other. It's a little easier to see what's happening. And then in here, this is kind of a long chain of things happening here, and it's not necessarily clear to me at first glance. I could read through it, but doing this chain of operations, it might be fine, but it might also obscure the meaning of what's happening here. And so if I think about what's happening here and I start at the very end and kind of work from the top down, I can yank this whole bit out and call it, what do I want to call it? Cipher Grid. Because what it is, it's my array of arrays after it's been processed. And so now ciphertext reads, my ciphertext is my cipher grid mapped with the join. So each row in the grid gets joined internally, and then the rows are joined together with spaces. All right, that's clear to me. That makes sense. And so here again, I see multiple things going on because this top level, this plain text chars in groups of, that's actually how we take our plain text and turn it into our plain grid. I guess I can call it. And so now if I look at Cipher Grid is simply taking the plain grid and transposing it. That's how you create the Cipher Grid. You take your plain grid and you transpose it. And so if I look at plain grid, you take the plain text, you take your the chars, the array of characters, and you group them by the column count, which the column count again is the plain text is the square root of the plain text length, the ceiling of that. And that's about all that I think that I want to do to this. I feel like that's pretty good. So I'll go ahead and submit it. And I'll see you in the next video.